All right, so we've got a really interesting deep dive today.
Yeah.
It's Fortune's 100 most powerful people in business list.
Yeah.
And,
It's a good one.
it's pretty different from what you might think.
Yeah, it's not just like the, richest people,
Exactly.
what you might expect.
Yeah, you would think, oh, it's just the billionaires club.
Right.
But it's really not.
It really gets into like how people are changing the game in 2024.
Yeah, it's about power and influence.
It's refreshing to see a list that goes beyond just like, the traditional measures of wealth and company size.
Yeah.
Like Fortune really seems to get that power today is more nuanced.
Excellent.
They have this 6-point system
Oh, yeah.
to rank these power players, and they're looking at things like, the scale of their impact, their ability to innovate,
That's cool.
even their influence on global affairs.
Okay, so let's break down this scoring system a little bit.
Sure.
What makes someone powerful, according to Fortune?
Well, they start with the basics: financial performance and market position.
Makes sense.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
A company's success is a pretty good indicator of its leader's power.
Yeah, for sure.
But then they get into some really intriguing categories.
What?
Like they look at whether the person is a trailblazer,
Yeah.
someone who's doing things that everyone else is scrambling to imitate.
So not just big, but the first.
Yes. Innovation in action.
Right, setting the trends.
Exactly. And then they also consider the individual's influence,
Okay.
both within their industry and on like a broader scale.
Mm-hmm.
Do their decisions have a ripple effect?
Yep.
Do they shape policies, inspire trends, or even move markets?
So it's like you're looking at their footprint.
Yeah.
How much are they shaping the world?
Exactly. That kind of influence goes way beyond the balance sheet.
For sure.
And it's not just focused on CEOs either.
Interesting.
The list includes founders, investors, even a few people who operate kind of behind the scenes.
Oh, wow.
But they have their hands on some very important levers. It's a really diverse group,
I like that.
which speaks to how power is becoming more diffuse.
It's not just one type of person.
Right.
So give us some examples.
Okay.
Who are some of the people who landed at the top of this list?
Well, coming in at number 1 is someone you probably expected.
Okay.
Elon Musk.
Oh, yeah. Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Tesla, SpaceX. I mean, the guy's everywhere.
Right. But what's interesting is that Fortune acknowledges the controversies surrounding him
Oh, for sure.
while also recognizing his undeniable impact
Right.
on multiple industries.
He's a disruptor.
He is.
Yeah.
And then you have someone like Warren Buffett at number 4,
Okay.
proving that steady long-term value creation
Yeah.
is still a major power move.
He's more like the classic.
The classic, yeah.
I like that contrast.
Yeah, Musk is shaking things up. Buffett represents a more traditional but still highly effective approach.
Absolutely.
And that diversity of approaches is
Yeah.
reflected throughout the list.
Cool.
You've got the tech giants like Sundar Pichai at Google, Tim Cook at Apple, but you also have people who are driving innovation in less obvious industries.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, for example, have you heard of Wang Chuanfu?
Wang Chuanfu? I don't think so.
Okay, he's the CEO of BYD.
BYD.
It's a Chinese company that's become the world's leading manufacturer of electric vehicles.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah,
I thought Tesla was still king.
they were. But BYD has been quietly gaining ground, particularly in China,
Oh,
which is now the world's largest market for EVs.
that makes sense.
Yeah, and what's fascinating about Wang Chuanfu is that he's focused on what he calls new energy vehicles.
New energy vehicles.
Yeah, which includes both plug-in hybrids and fully electric models.
So not putting all his eggs in one basket.
Exactly.
That's
It's a smart strategy for a world that's still figuring out
Yeah.
the best path to a sustainable transportation future.
Absolutely.
And it's an example of how power can be tied to anticipating and adapting to major shifts in the global market.
That's a good point. So we've got these titans of industry. But you mentioned that the list also includes some folks who are less well known.
Yes.
So who are some of the people that might surprise our listeners?
One person who immediately comes to mind is Safra Catz,
Okay.
the CEO of Oracle.
Oracle.
She's been quietly steering this tech giant
Wow.
into the cloud computing era,
Okay.
and she's been incredibly successful at it.
So she's taking on the big guys,
She is.
like Amazon and Microsoft.
Yeah. Oracle's cloud infrastructure business is now a serious contender against Amazon Web Services
Wow.
and Microsoft Azure.
That's impressive.
It is, and it shows that power isn't always about being the loudest voice in the room.
Right.
Sometimes it's about strategic execution and the ability to adapt to a changing technological landscape.
Okay, I'm seeing a theme here.
Yeah.
It's not just about who's richest or who runs the biggest company. It's about who's having a real impact on the world.
Absolutely.
whether it's through innovation leadership or even just by anticipating the needs of the future.
That's a great observation. And it brings us to another interesting aspect of Fortune's scoring system,
Yep.
impact.
Impact.
They're not just looking at financial success.
Okay.
They're also considering how these leaders are using their power to address some of the world's most pressing challenges.
So it's not enough to just be successful.
Right.
You got to do good.
You have a responsibility to use your platform for good.
Give us some examples.
Okay.
Who's using their power to make a positive difference?
Well, someone like Bill Gates immediately comes to mind.
Of course, yeah.
He stepped back from his role at Microsoft,
Right.
but he's still a major force in philanthropy,
Mhm.
tackling issues like global health and poverty through the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
And he's got breakthrough energy ventures, right?
Yes,
Investing in clean energy technology.
exactly. He's using his wealth and his platform to drive real change
That's awesome.
on a global scale.
Good for him.
And he's not alone. There are many other leaders on this list who are committed to making a positive impact.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about innovation, influence, impact. But what about the companies themselves?
Right.
How does Fortune assess the power of the organizations these leaders represent?
Well, they look at things like the company's size and reach, its financial performance, and its overall impact on the global economy.
Makes sense.
But they also consider the company's culture, its values, and its reputation.
So it's not just about the numbers.
No, it's also about the company's DNA, its soul, so to speak.
I like that.
They're trying to understand what makes these companies tick,
Right.
what drives their success,
Yeah.
and how they're shaping the world around them.
So they're really trying to get a holistic view of power, looking
Yeah.
at both the individual and the organization they lead.
They are, and I think that's what makes this list so interesting. It's
Yeah.
not just a ranking of the richest people in the world.
Right.
It's a snapshot of the forces that are shaping the future of business and society. Yeah. And what's fascinating is how this list highlights the different ways that companies can be powerful.
Yeah.
You've got these like tech behemoths
Right.
like Apple and Microsoft
Mm-hmm.
who wield enormous influence through their products and platforms.
Right. They control how we interact with technology in so many ways.
Exactly. But then you have companies like BYD
Yeah.
who are rapidly changing entire industries
Yeah.
by driving innovation in areas like electric vehicles and renewable energy.
It's not just about the size of the company anymore. It's about their ability to, like, disrupt and reshape the landscape.
Absolutely. And this list really captures that dynamism.
Yeah.
It's not just a static ranking. It's a reflection of how power is constantly shifting and evolving.
Okay, so we've talked about some of the big names, the Elon Musks and the Warren Buffetts of the world.
Right?
But I'm curious about some of the other folks on this list.
Yeah.
Who are some of the people who might not be household names yet,
Right.
but are quietly wielding immense power within their industries.
One person who fits that description perfectly is Jensen Huang,
Okay.
the CEO of NVIDIA.
NVIDIA.
Yeah, he's been at the helm of this company for over 3 decades.
Wow.
And under his leadership, NVIDIA has gone from a niche graphics card maker
Okay.
to a global powerhouse in artificial intelligence.
I know NVIDIA makes those graphics cards that, like, all the gamers love,
Yeah,
but I haven't really connected them to the AI boom.
right.
How are they involved in that?
Well, it turns out that the same kind of processing power that makes for amazing graphics in video games
Okay.
is also essential for training and running these complex AI algorithms.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. So NVIDIA's GPUs, or graphics processing units,
Okay.
are now the go-to hardware for pretty much anyone doing serious work in artificial intelligence.
So they're kind of like the picks and shovels of the AI gold rush.
Exactly.
Right.
And Jensen Huang saw this coming years ago.
Wow.
He recognized that AI was going to be huge, and he positioned NVIDIA to be at the forefront of this revolution.
It's a great example of how a leader's vision can shape the destiny of a company,
It is.
and in this case, have a huge impact on an entire industry.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'm also curious about how Fortune measures the impact of these companies.
Yeah.
On a global scale, like, what are some of the factors they consider?
Well, they look at things like the company's revenue, its global reach, its employee base,
Okay.
and its influence on policy and regulation.
That makes sense.
But they also consider factors like the company's commitment to sustainability,
Okay.
its social impact, and its overall contribution to the global economy.
So they're taking a pretty comprehensive approach,
Yeah.
trying to capture the full spectrum of a company's influence.
They are, and it's important to do so because power today isn't just about profits
Right.
and market share.
Yeah.
It's also about how companies are shaping the world we live in.
Right. For better or worse.
Exactly.
It's not enough for companies to just be successful. They also need to be responsible.
Absolutely, and that's something that Fortune takes very seriously. Their scoring system explicitly rewards companies
Okay.
that are using their power to make a positive impact on the world.
So we've talked about companies that are pushing the boundaries of innovation like NVIDIA,
Right.
and companies that are using their platform to drive social change like the Gates Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any companies on this list that are maybe doing both?
Absolutely.
Oh.
One company that immediately comes to mind is Anthropic.
Anthropic.
Yeah, it's an AI safety and research company.
I've heard of them.
Yeah. They're developing cutting-edge AI systems,
Okay.
but they're also deeply committed to ensuring that these systems are aligned with human values
Oh, wow, that's cool.
and used for the benefit of humanity.
So they're not just focused on building the most powerful AI.
Right.
They're also thinking about the ethical implications
Yeah.
and the potential risks.
Exactly. They're trying to build AI that is not only intelligent, but also safe, reliable, and aligned with our values.
That's incredibly important work, especially as AI becomes more powerful and more pervasive in our lives.
It is, and it's a great example of how a company can be both innovative and impactful.
Yeah.
They're not just pushing the boundaries of technology, they're also thinking deeply about how to use that technology for good.
I love that it's like they're trying to build a better future, not just a more profitable one.
Precisely. And that kind of forward-thinking approach is essential if we want to navigate the challenges and opportunities of the 21st century.
So we've talked a lot about the tech industry,
Yeah.
which makes sense given its kind of a dominant role in shaping the world today.
Right.
But what about other industries?
Yeah.
Are there any companies on this list that are shaking things up in, say, the world of finance or retail?
Definitely in the finance world, you have companies like BlackRock,
Okay.
the world's largest asset manager,
Wow.
and they're wielding their enormous financial power to push for sustainable investing and corporate social responsibility.
Okay, so they're using their influence for good.
They are. And in retail, you have companies like Amazon,
Yeah.
which has completely revolutionized the way we shop, and Walmart, which is leveraging its vast supply chain and logistics network to address issues like food insecurity
Wow.
and access to affordable health care.
It's fascinating to see how companies across different industries are finding ways to use their power for good.
It is, and it's a reminder that power isn't inherently good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about how it's used.
I agree. And this list really highlights the potential for companies to be forces for positive change in the world.
It does, and it's an inspiring reminder that we all have a role to play in shaping the future.
Absolutely. Feels like we've only just scratched the surface of this Fortune list.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It's a testament to how dynamic the landscape of power is right now. Like,
Mhm.
it's not just concentrated at the top anymore.
Okay.
It's distributed across industries, geographies, and even ideologies.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You have people like Peter Thiel
Oh, yeah.
and Mark Andreessen,
Interesting.
who are known for their contrarian views,
Right.
but are still incredibly influential in shaping the direction of Silicon Valley.
They're definitely not afraid to challenge the status quo.
No, they're not.
And it seems like their willingness to take risks and bet on unconventional ideas has paid off in a big way.
It has, and their stories are a good reminder that power isn't always about following the crowd.
Right.
Sometimes it's about forging your own path and being willing to be a little bit different.
I like that.
Yeah.
So we've talked about the different ways to measure power.
Yeah.
The companies that are wielding it and the individuals who are shaping the future.
Well, yeah.
But what does all of this mean for our listeners?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Like, how can they apply these insights to their own lives and careers?
Well, I think one of the biggest takeaways from this list is that power isn't some mystical force
Right.
that's reserved for a select few.
Yeah.
It's something we can all cultivate and use to make a difference.
It's empowering to think that we all have the potential to be powerful in our own way.
We do, and it starts with understanding how power works in the 21st century.
Oh,
It's not just about wealth or position anymore. It's about the ability to influence, to innovate, and to create value.
so what advice would you give to someone who wants to be more powerful or at least more impactful
Yeah.
in their own sphere of influence?
So I would say focus on developing your skills and expertise.
Okay.
building strong relationships, and always being willing to learn and adapt.
So it's not just about climbing the corporate ladder
Right.
or chasing after a bigger paycheck.
No,
It's about finding your purpose and using your influence to make the world a better place.
exactly. And that's a powerful message to leave our listeners with.
It is.
Yeah.
So as you go about your day, think about the ways you can use your influence, big or small, to make a positive difference, because even the smallest actions can have a ripple effect.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, that's a wrap on another Deep Dive. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.